Everybody wants to be the boss, but nobody wants to pay the cost. Everybody wants to be a CEO, but nobody wants to pay the cost. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, but nobody wants to pay the cost. Everybody wants to be an apostle, but nobody wants to pay the cost. Everybody wants to be a prophet, but nobody wants to pay the cost. Everybody wants to claim that they have been sent as a preacher, but nobody wants to pay the cost. Everybody wants to turn from a prayer warrior to an intercessor, but nobody wants to pay the cost. Almost everybody in America wants to be called a pastor, but nobody wants to pay the cost. But there is a cost to success. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, it costs me. You see me driving it, but it costs me. You see me living in it, but it costs me. You see me working there, but it costs me. You see me wearing it, but it costs me. You see me standing on it, but it costs me. Anybody in the house willing to say it costs me something? God had to do his part, but I had to pay my part. It costs.
Yes.
Ooh, it costs me.
It costs me.
Yeah.
Lord, in the name of Jesus, help me to preach this thing.
My God.
Amen. People of God, God has a plan. Touch yourself and say, God has a plan.
God has a plan.
According to the book of Jeremiah, God had a plan before you were in your mother's womb. While you were in there, God had a plan. Before you took your first breath in the atmosphere of the earth, God had a plan for you.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, before your mama met your dad, God had a plan for you. Before your grandfather picked up your grandmother in his Model T Ford, God had a plan for you. Not only does he have a plan, but he has a master plan. There is a difference. Because we can have plans. But a master can have a master plan. A plan, people of God, is a method or system developed or arranged beforehand. Somebody say beforehand.
Beforehand.
You don't get there and then you prepare. Beforehand, to see an event or a project all the way from beginning to end. The Bible says, he that begun a good work in me shall perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. God has a plan. But only God can develop a master plan. And a master plan means that everything in your life, everything that you have experienced, everything that you have ever gone through has a harmonious balance that has taken you from birth all the way up to now and will lead you on to glory. God has a master plan. Can I just share with you today that even though you're going to have some ups and downs, even though you're going to have some mountains and you're definitely going to have some valleys, even though you're going to have some obstacles and some setbacks, can I just encourage you today that God still has a master plan? Even when you have a wall up in front of you, God has a master plan. He may tell you to walk around it a few times and look real crazy and shout before it falls, but that just lets me know that God has a master plan. You may have a giant over 10 feet tall in front of you, a giant in your marriage, a giant on your job, a giant in your schooling, a giant in your studies, but there is still a master plan. Look at your neighbor and say, God has a plan. He's working out every single pain. He's working out every single tear. He's working out all of your sorrows because he has a master plan. He's working out your disappointments. He's working out your heartbreak. He's working out your heartache. And he's working it out for his master plan. Every single closed door is a part of matter how good things are, God still has a plan. No matter how high you go, God still has a plan. No matter how lonely it gets, God still has. Can I just tell you, no matter how angry you get, God still has a plan. No matter how many sins you commit, people of God, God has a master plan. Let me just preach to you. No matter how many sicknesses you may encounter, God still has a master. No matter how many attacks you have to be hit by, God still has a master plan. No matter the accusations, no matter the rumor, no matter the slander, no matter what they put in the paper, no matter what they put on social media, God still has a master plan.
Thank you, oh God. Thank
No
you, oh
matter
God.
the marital issues, no matter how long your lease is or how high your mortgage is, God still has a master plan. No matter what your friends may or may not be doing, what your spouse may or may not be doing, God still has a no matter your education level, God still has a master plan. Somebody say he has a plan.
Thank you, oh
Now, see,
God.
that's not the problem. Or at least I thought it was. I didn't get a whole lot of amens right there, but that's usually not the problem. The problem is not the plan or knowing that God has a plan. It's trusting him during the process of the plan. Can I get a few amen right there?
Amen.
The problem is trusting him in the time between here and there. Between plan and provision. Between yesterday and tomorrow. There's this problem between entry and graduation. There's some questions between freshman year and senior year. And if we be honest, we have some issues between Sundays and Sundays. And sometimes we have an issue between 9:50 and 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. Do I have a few witnesses that sometimes it's hard to trust God even in a minute? Sometimes it's hard to trust him between interview and employment. Between conception of the vision and birthing of the vision. Sometimes it's hard to even trust God between being born and being born again. And again. And again. And again some more. And sometimes it's hard to even trust him between I do and then I might.
Well.
Back to I do again. It's sometimes hard to trust him in this place called transition. See, so we call it in school, it's called matriculation. The end of it is commencement. But in the middle of it all is called transition. Somebody say transition. And what I like about God is that he has a master plan for our lives as well as our deaths. Oh, y'all don't have an amen, not nowhere in the corner. My Bible says, for the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal. He even has a plan for our deaths.
Amen.
So if he has a plan for our beginning, he has a plan for our end. If he has a plan for Alpha,
well,
because he is Alpha. He has a plan for Omega because he is Omega. And then he has a plan for everything
in between.
God has a plan for every single transition. Somebody say transition. All of us are in transition. You might be transitioning in your job. You might be in transition in your marriage. You might be in transition in your emotions. You might be in transition in your church. VLC, and we are turning the corner on order. And so we are in transition. Somebody say transition. We are in transition even if you ignore it all the time. 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 1,440 minutes of the day, and 86,400 seconds of the day. We are in transition.
Amen.
The earth is in transition. It's moving around the sun right now. The sun is in transition. It's moving around the earth and other planets right now. We are all in transition. Transition. Somebody say transition. I really want to get this in your spirit because we don't like to change. We don't like transition. I'm a creature of habit. On Monday I'm here. On Tuesday I'm there. On Wednesday. We don't like when things have to transition and things have to change and people have to change, and we like to stay stuck in who we are. But the first time your mama and or daddy looked at you, you were in transition. You transitioned from the womb to birthing. transition from baby to toddler. You transition from toddler to adolescence. You transition from adolescence to preteen and then them crazy teenagers. Y'all forgive me, I just have to say that really. Then you transition. Some of us as adults, we're still in teenage level. Because we have not transitioned from that level. But we are all in transition. Can I just give you the definition for transition?
Yes.
Transition is movement. Somebody say movement. Movement. Is passage or change. That's that word that we don't like. From one position, one place, one state, one stage, one concept, one mindset to another. Yes. Transition is also the period of time in between. Yes. From one stage to another. In music, they call it the passing from one key to another, which is modulation. And see, the problem is we don't like to modulate in the spirit. We like to stay in the same key. Everybody else is in C and you want to stay low. You want to stay right there, right in comfortable E flat. That's where you want to be flat. But God wants you to be natural. Now, if you play this, you know exactly where I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You want to stay in major keys and you major in minor and minor in major because you don't know how to transition. In music, sometimes there is a thing called a sudden, unprepared modulation. And that is the same way with life. You prepared for one thing, and God sent an unprepared, sudden modulation. You ever been in a season where it is a sudden shift? Your voice changes, your mindset changes, your circle changes, your friends change, your marriage changes because you are in transition. And see, the thing is, transition is not always fun. When you're in transition, things are uncertain. Because you don't know where this transition is taking you. Am I talking to anybody? If you're taking notes, let me give you 7 signs you're in spiritual transition. I'm taking this from the text. Number 1, nothing you do seems to change the circumstance you're in, even with diligent effort. You ain't missed a prayer meeting. You haven't missed a worship service. You get up and pray every day. You fast, you don't tell nobody, you do it right. But no matter what you do, it seems like it's not being effective.
Amen.
That means that you're in, or possibly in, spiritual transition. Number 2, watch me. Everything feels like it's falling apart. Life is just falling apart. You feel like if it don't get better, you might have a breakdown. You ever feel like if you don't have a breakthrough, you're going to have a breakdown? But can I tell you sometimes that breakdowns can create breakthroughs? Things fall apart so that God can put them back together. Number 3, you're emotional. And more emotional than you normally are. You're in your feelings a lot. You're moody. You're up and down in the same moment. You're hopeful and hopeless in the same second. You're cheerful and depressed all at the same time. You're optimistic on one end and then you're saying, I'm not going to make it on the inside. Number 4, the world calls it the law of attraction, but believers call it reaping and sowing. It's not working. I'm tithing, giving, sacrificing, sowing, in my first fruits, and still no results. I have a seed in the ground, seed on top of seed, and I still haven't seen a harvest. It could mean that you are in spiritual transition. Because guess what? God don't work on your clock. And he's not an ATM where your money can change the trajectory of what he's trying to do on the inside of you. Number 5, you know you're in spiritual transition when your relationships are in a people. Those that are closest to you fall asleep on you like they did Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. Those that are closest to you fall asleep on your dreams and fall asleep on your vision and fall asleep on your assignment and fall asleep when you're wide awake. Can't call on nobody when you're in transition. Y'all with me today? Yes. Number 6, your prayer life has been heightened. Your conversations with God are more frequent because you need to know where he wants you to go because you don't even know where you're going. That's called intimacy. You have no choice but to listen and talk to God because can't nobody else understand what you're going through. And number 7, things in your life seem to be coming to an end. A dreadful, unexpected end. Anybody ever been there?
Amen.
Where your manifestations aren't manifesting.
Amen.
Your relationships are ending, your world is crumbling, and all of your efforts seem to be falling flat. Your manifestations may feel like they aren't working, but I just come here to tell you that they're working and they are on the way. That is called transition, because when you're in transition, your blessings, your manifestations are in transition too.
Yes.
So that's where Abraham is. Look at the text. He's in transition. Look at verse 1. Verse 1 says, sometime later God tested Abraham. Said, Abraham, God called you. Take your son. Take. Somebody say take. That's movement. That's passage. Abraham is in transition. And transition is not pre-dedicated to your age. Abraham was an old fella here. He was one of those fellas. Come. He was one of those. He was older. He was like that uncle that you, how are you still living? What's going on? He's older, so he doesn't feel like he needs to be in transit. He feels like it's okay to be still. It's okay not to do it. It's okay to let the young ones take care of it. Anybody ever been there?
Amen.
And so, because Abraham has almost everything that he desires. Say, almost.
Almost.
His wife is good. His home is all right. The promise is fulfilled. He got Isaac now. The baby mama, surrogate issue has been worked out. The treaties with the enemies have been worked out. He's preparing to give the inheritance over to Isaac. And then God requires more in transition. Ooh. And so Abraham transitions by faith. Can I just talk a little bit, teach a little bit? In Genesis, Romans, and Galatians, the Bible says Abraham believed God. He had faith, and it was counted unto him as righteousness. Wait a minute. You're talking about my holiness stuff is not counted as my righteousness? My speaking in tongues don't count as righteousness? My offerings don't count as righteousness? My going to church every Sunday don't count as righteousness? My lack of cussing don't count as righteousness? My lack of sin don't count as righteousness? My title don't count as righteousness? My position don't count as righteousness? My education don't count as righteousness? My works don't. No, by faith he was counted as. That's how much faith Abraham had. He had so much faith. God said, I will get you into heaven just by your faith.
Amen.
So can I ask you a question? Who do you believe? What do you believe? Are you going to believe your bank account? Are you going to believe your God? Are you going to believe your education? Are you going to believe your God? Are you going to believe your diagnosis? Are you going to believe your God? Are you going to believe the lack of resources? Are you going to believe your God? Are you going to believe the God of provision? Are you going to believe the God of protection? Are you going to believe the God of deliverance? Are you going to believe the God of the open door? Are you going to believe the God of power? Are you going to believe the God of fire? Are you going to believe the God of wind? Are you going to believe the God of water? Are you going to believe the God of power? Do I have a few believers in the house? They say, I will transition by faith. I'll move by faith. I'll walk by faith. I'll talk by faith. I'll think by faith. I'll live by faith. I'll love by faith. Do I have any faith-giving believers in the house?
Amen.
Somebody say by faith. So, with all this faith, with all this belief, there is still a cost to success. I'm almost done already. Cost to success. Can I give you a few costs? You'll have unexpected requirements. Unexpected requirements when you're trying to get to your level of success. This is called sacrifice training. And I want to bring spiritual principles into your natural so you can have success in every area of your life. We call it victory, but it's also success. Success requires unwavering commitment. Unwavering. When the money funny, when the people funny, when they're talking about you, you got to be unwavering in your commitment to God and to your success. Success requires you show no fear when it looks like you have no success. Success requires you make no excuses for your vision. Success requires you make difficult choices and decisions. Sometimes the best decision is the most difficult one. Success requires time equity. I'm going fast so we can get out of here. Time equity. Time equity means that I am fair to my success.
Well.
I don't spend extra time on Snapchat. I don't spend all my time on Facebook strolling. I don't feel, I said strolling because sometimes we just sit there and scroll Facebook like we have nothing else to do. Like we ain't got no job. Like we don't need to study. Like we don't need to have a second job and a third job and maybe a fourth idea to bring some extra income into the house. And so your success requires time equity.
Amen.
Time in and time out. Y'all don't even know what I'm saying.
Amen.
Success requires believing that failure is not an option.
Uh-huh.
You're not going to take no for an answer.
Amen.
You're not going to take maybe for an answer. You're not going to take not today for it. You are going to press for your success.
Amen.
Success requires sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
That dream you want, that vision, that goal, everything you have in mind, it's not going to magically manifest.
Amen.
That's called witchcraft, by the way. It's not going to magically manifest. You will have to do your part.
Mm-hmm.
You will have to work your faith.
Amen.
Faith without works is shown up in the grave. You got to make sacrifices sometimes, and sometimes drastic sacrifices for success. Because success requires sacrifice. You have to be willing to give something in order to gain something. But we live in a society that wants to gain everything and not give nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's how this world works.
Amen.
We want to be spoiled, and then we turn rotten.
Uh-huh.
We don't want to work for nothing.
Come on now.
And so, let me just be honest. I used to be appalled when my mama required that I had to do something.
Uh-huh.
That I had to do any type of chore. I'd be like, ain't that what you supposed to do? And see, my mama was cool with it. You want to go ride the bus.
Uh-huh.
You want to go ride the bus, and you got to come up with your own fare.
Uh-huh.
If you really want to get there. But what we do, we make sure our children have everything, and we require nothing of them. But that's not how the world works. Let your baby go to that job and ain't ever have to sacrifice nothing. Let your baby try to be a CEO or a COO or a CFO or even just a simple manager, and they never sacrifice anything. You're setting them up for failure.
Amen.
I'm preaching to myself.
Amen.
You're setting your children up for failure
Amen.
if you don't allow them to sacrifice something.
Amen.
That's not how the world works. If you're not willing to make the necessary sacrifices to attain your success, then you will fail to create the momentum you need to get it. Transition is momentum. Transition is momentum. I move in moments. I have momentum. You ever see a football game shift when the team gets momentum? You ever see a basketball game shift when the team has momentum? The number one team turns to the 10th seed because the other team had momentum. They didn't have the best basketball players. They didn't have the best dunkers. They didn't have the best point guard. What they had was momentum. That means they knew when to transition. That means they knew when to shoot and they knew when to be quiet. They knew when to be on offense and when to be on defense. See, the problem is we get so offended all the time and we get in our defensive feelings. But baby, use that right there to shift the atmosphere. I'm going to pray for my enemies. I'm going to pray for those that despitefully use me. And I'm going to use it as momentum for my blessing. Let me say it like this. What you do in the dark, God will bless you in the light. Who you pray for in the dark, God will bless you in the light. What you pray for in the dark, in the secret place, God will answer you. You know, somebody say momentum.
Momentum. Yes, God.
So you may have to sacrifice who you are,
Mm-hmm.
what you do,
Mm-hmm.
how you do it,
Mm-hmm.
when you do it. Watch me. You may have to sacrifice what you say,
Mm-hmm.
how you say it. See, some of us don't even have the positions on our job because we don't know how to talk to people. We got to sacrifice our right to be right. Whew.
Amen.
Right there. Listen, we all expect God to be the God that gives us the position as the CEO, but we still acting like we shouldn't even be in the job. We still talking to people like they our best friend. We still talking to managers like they our boo. We still talking to managers like they our best friend. We can just talk to them and we start cussing at them and talking about them and coming to them any kind of way. But you got to sacrifice your mouth in this season.
Come on now.
And then you got to sacrifice what you have. You got to sacrifice what you have. You might want to write that down. If you want to have more, you got to sacrifice something. Something of what you got today.
Amen.
Let's look at verse 2. Take your son, Isaac, whom you love, and sacrifice him. Don't take a bull, a lamb, a ram. I don't want no dove. I want your best. So wait a minute, God. You mean to tell me I can't take Ishmael? I'll go find him and his mom. You mean to tell me I can't take the servants? I can't. That's not what you want, God? What about me? I'll sacrifice in the baby's stead.
Come on now, you preaching.
God said, no, I don't want that. I don't want your adopted son. I don't want that. I want what you hold dear.
Yeah.
My God.
Then he says, not only that, you got to go to the right place. See, we think that our sacrifices are going to be on good ground anywhere. We give anywhere. You know that place has death. You know that place don't worship. And you going to give in a place that don't worship? You going to give in a place that they don't want to lift their hands? They're doing rudimentary things in the Bible. Okay, I'm not even.
She said rudimentary.
So the place is significant. Abraham had to go to Mount Moriah. Somebody say Mount Moriah. The place was Moriah, but God said you got to go to the mountains of Moriah. And Moriah only occurs twice in the Bible. This time, and it's also the place that Solomon built the first temple of God. So this is one of those places where God sits and he dwells and he builds wells and he gives provision and he brings healing. And this is the place where he shakes atmospheres. And so I want to ask you a question. If there's no shaking, there should be no sacrifice. If your preacher don't ever shake you up, there should be no sacrifice. If I don't ever get on your nerves, there should be no sacrifice.
Yeah.
Then he says you got to go up to the mountain. So you got to go up in this season. That's one of those requirements. And I said it yesterday on the prayer call. We're so busy staying at the same level. We're so busy descending. But who shall go to the hill of the Lord? Who shall ascend? It's time for us to ascend in our sacrifices.
Yes, it is.
So God said, I've given you the promise. I've given it to you. Now I want it back. And see, when you're in transition, God will require things that look like he's against you. It looks like that what he's asking you to do is more than you can bear.
My God.
It's more than what you really want to do. Listen, I'm tired of getting up at 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning to pray. Matter of fact, I have to get up earlier to pray and to prepare for the word. So I got to get up way before everybody else. I'm usually up around 7, sometimes 6, preparing for the 9 o'clock call. And I ask God for permission to change the time or change the day. No, y'all see my frustration? I'm serious. This is serious. I'm being serious. And God says, if you want it, you got to sacrifice. What are you willing to give up some sleep for your success? Are you willing to give up some sleep for your disciple success? Are you willing to give up sleep for your child's success? Are you willing to give up sleep for your women's ministry success and your future men's ministry success and your media ministry success and your serve team? Are you willing to sacrifice some sleep to get what you want and to get where you want to be? And so VLCM, I'm sorry, we're going to keep on sacrificing in prayer. But I dare God, I believe God, he's daring us in this season to sacrifice in prayer and sacrifice in praise and sacrifice in worship and sacrifice in yes and sacrifice when it hurts and sacrifice when you don't feel good, sacrifice when you don't feel like it. It's time to sacrifice. If you want to have success, you got to figure out the price. Look at verse 3. The next morning, That's why I'm trying to finish this amen. Next one, Abraham got up early. He did everything God told him to do.
Uh-huh.
Took his servant, saddled his donkey, took his son, chopped up the wood. He prepared for whatever. I was watching a movie with my daughter, some scary movie, and the priest said, sometimes you got to pray and sometimes you got to act. And so we so busy praying that we don't know when to act. We so busy praying, we don't know when to pick up the call and pray with the person you're praying for. So he prepared for whatever. For transition. That means he was willing to go all the way. Somebody say go all the way.
All the way.
Verses 4 through 8. This is necessary but difficult conversation. If you taking notes, take this down. Necessary but difficult conversation. The first difficult conversation he had was with his close friends, his servants. He said, look here, you can't go where I'm going. Stay right here. This level of worship, this level of sacrifice is just for me. Isaac and myself have to go further. Don't give at my level if you can't handle it. Don't pray at this level if you can't handle it. Don't sacrifice at this level if you can't handle it. See, everybody wants everybody else's mantle, but what about your own? Stay right where you are if you're not ready to transition. So that's the first difficult conversation. You're going to have it with your friends. There are some places you and your friends can't go together. Then the second one is with your family. This is necessary but difficult with your family. Isaac, his son says, look here, Daddy. Where is the ram? Where's the bull? What we doing today? Where's the promise? Where's the produce? Where is it? What's going on here? And so you're going to have difficult conversations with your children, with your spouse when you're trying to go to success. See, what I love here, and I'm just put a pin right here. What I love is that Isaac knew the practice of worship. He knew the practice of sacrifice. He knew that Daddy is supposed to have some ram or some bull in his arms or something. And so Isaac had to ask questions. He was willing and able to ask questions because he knew. So parents, you've got to teach your children how to pray. You've got to teach your children how to praise through it. You've got to teach your children. How about you teach your children how to write out a check and balance it? I'm bringing spiritual principles to natural levels. How about you teach your children not to get a credit card at 18 without your permission?
Amen.
So that their credit score won't be at a 419.
Amen. Amen.
I knew I wasn't going to get too many.
Amen.
So the third conversation you got to have is with yourself. So Abraham says, he tells Isaac, after all those questions, God will provide. He's talking to Isaac, but he's really talking to himself. I don't know how God is going to do it, but God will provide. The money is funny. God will provide. The lights are on. God will provide. The business fell through. God will provide. The ministry doors are closed. God will provide. You got repossessed. God will provide. You got an eviction notice. God will provide. The financial aid didn't come through. God will provide. You got a bad diagnosis. Tell your body God will provide. You got a few aches and pains. God will provide. You can't get an A. You can't even pay for it. God will provide. You don't know how it's going to be fixed. God will provide. Do I have any believers in the house that are willing to testify? God will provide. Prophesy to your bank account. God will provide. Prophesy to your marriage. God will provide. Prophesy to your children. God will provide. And if you have to prophesy to yourself, God will provide. Number 3, you got to have unwavering, unshakable obedience in transition.
Amen.
When Isaac and Abraham got to the place where God told him to go, Abraham arranged the wood. Watch this. In the first season, Abraham had to chop the wood. In the second season, he had to carry the wood. In this season, he had to compose the wood. He had to put it in proper place. So let me just tell you real quick, just as a clue, the wood is symbolic for Jesus. Jesus is the wood. For he should grow up before him as a tender plant would and as a root out of dry ground would. But also, Jesus had to carry wood. He had to carry a cross made of wood to get to ultimate success. So when you want to get to success, you have to chop up the wood. Meaning you got to prepare it. You got to cut off what's necessary. You can't take everything with you. Then you got to carry the wood. You got to keep it close. Keep him close. Keep Jesus close. Keep the cross close. Keep it close. Somebody say keep it close. No matter the conversation, Abraham carried the wood. No matter how many people he had to walk away from, Abraham carried the wood. No matter what Isaac said, Abraham carried the wood. No matter what place it was, Abraham carried the wood. That means you can't drop off the wood in the wrong place. You can't give up too soon in the dark place. You can't give up even when the sacrifice is talking to you. You know you shouldn't give that. Just give a little bit. You gotta preach something. And then when he got to this season, somebody say this season, this is where most of us are. This is the season where you gotta organize. You gotta compose. You gotta put your sacrifice in groups. You gotta put your position in groups. You gotta put things in order. Somebody say order. The reason that a lot of us are having chaos in our house and in our relationships on our job because we don't know how to bring order. Chop the wood. Carry the wood, and now you got to compose it. We want to have success at school, but we don't want to study. We want to have success on our job, but we don't want to take up extra certifications. We want to have more money, but we don't want to sacrifice time to go back to school to get the education you need to get that. Just a degree, it's just a paper they really want to see in order for you to get the raise.
Amen.
We want a house, but we don't want to stop eating out so that we can save to fix up our credit and get a down payment.
Amen.
We want to get a new car with 22% interest rate because we won't fix our credit first.
My God.
Somebody say order.
Order.
And so we drive cars that we can't afford, or we barely can afford because we're trying to keep up with somebody else that has order, and it provides chaos in our house. I'm almost done. Verse 10 and 12, that's the miracle. Y'all know that story. Abraham's got to sacrifice. God steps in and starts talking. He sends angelic assistance, and he shifts the atmosphere just because Abraham had unwavering obedience. And so, because Abraham had unwavering obedience, look at what happens. Look at verse 13. He looks up. He sees a ram caught by the horns in a thicket. And that caught my attention because they're on a mountain. What's a thicket doing on a mountain? For those of you that don't know, I'm not going to go too much into it, but thickets are in valleys and forests. And so every now and then you might see a thicket on a mountain, but not thick enough to have a ram. If you've never been to the zoo in a little hidden area, rams are tall. They don't play with you. They're stubborn and a little mean sometimes. In order for that ram to be in the thicket, he had to get there by God. Because it never said that it had a yoke around it. Never said that somebody else was carrying it up the mountain. This particular sacrifice was provided by God. And so it amazes me how people won't even give 10% because the 100% was given by God. It amazes me how people don't even give 5% when God gave 100%, and all he's asking of us is to sacrifice a little ram.
Just a little bit.
I knew I wasn't going to get no amen right there. But here's what I like. Abraham looks up and he realizes, I don't have to sacrifice Isaac, but I do have to sacrifice something. And so what I love about God is God provided the scapegoat. Isaac should have been on that altar. Isaac should have stayed on that. As a matter of fact, Abraham should have been on that altar. Abraham should have been there, but God provided the scapegoat. You know what? Another time God provided the scapegoat, it's on this mountain called Calvary, where I should have been on the wood. I should have been on the cross with my crazy self and my lying self and my gossiping self and my lazy self and my mean self and my hateful self. I should be on the wood, but thanks be unto God. God provided a ram in the thicket. God provided a ram in Nazareth. God provided a ram in Bethlehem. God provided a ram. Do I have any believers in the house that are thankful? Every time I looked up, God provided a ram. Every time I sinned, God provided a ram. Every time I messed up, God provided a ram. Every time I lied on my neighbor, God provided a ram. Every
God.
Meaning he will provide even when it gets thick.
Amen. Thank you, oh God.
So no one knows where the ram came from. I looked it up. No theologian can figure out where that ram came from.
Yeah.
So it reminded me of manna. What is it?
Yeah.
Where is it?
Uh-huh.
How is it?
Yeah.
When is it?
Yeah.
Every time I wake up, there's new manna.
Yeah.
Every time I wake up, there's new provision. Every time I wake up, there's a new scapegoat. Scapegoat is called mercy. Every single morning, God provides new mercy. Every single morning, God provides a scapegoat. Do I have just two people in the house that will thank God every single day? I got mercy. Mercy at 7 a.m. Mercy at 8 a.m. Scapegoat at 10 a.m. Mercy at 12 p.m. Mercy at 7 p.m. Scapegoat at 10 p.m. Do I have any believers in the house that says God provided the scapegoat? He provided the mountain. He provided the ticket. He provided the Isaac. He provided the wood. He provided the servant. He provided my feet to walk up the mountain. Do I have just a few believers that will testify the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof, and they that dwell therein? He's providing the job. He's providing promotion. He's providing the healing. He's providing deliverance. He's providing breakthrough. He's providing open doors. He's providing for your daughter. He's providing for your son. He's providing for your marriage. He's providing for your now. He's providing for your future. I'm prophesying in this house. He's providing for your education. He's providing for your mortgage. He's providing for your lease. He's providing for your debt. He's providing.
Thank you, oh God. Thank you, oh God.
Thank you, Jesus.
Abraham named that place Jehovah Jireh. That's where we get that from. The Lord
Provide.
will provide.
Yes, oh God.
After God provided, God decides to bless him again. Somebody say again.
Again.
Because you obeyed. And so I asked God, Lord, how am I going to keep teaching on sacrifice? And everybody knows that obedience is better than sacrifice. And he told me to tell y'all sometimes sacrifice is the obedience. There are some blessings contingent upon your level of obedience and your obedience in sacrifice. And God says, because you obeyed me, because you were at least willing to sacrifice, because you were at least willing to do a little bit more, He says, I will certainly bless you. I'll bless you on Sunday. I'll bless you on Monday. I'll bless you on Thursday. I'll bless you in the morning. I'll bless you in the noonday. I'll bless you at night. I'll bless you while you sleep. I'll bless you on your job. I'll bless you in your marriage. I'll bless you in your business. I'll bless you. I'll protect you. I'll favor you. I'll advantage you. I'll send a miracle. I'll send manna from heaven. I will serve you. I will keep you. I will help you. I will profit you. I'll send a bonus. I'll send a breakthrough. I'll endorse you. I'll back you. I'll approve you. I'll validate you. Can I get just a few people in the house today that will bless God for the blessing on the way? I'll support you. I'll consent you. I'll commend you. I'll ascend you. I'll protect you. I'll keep you. I'll keep you whole. I'll hold you. I'll heal you. I'll bless you. Even when it doesn't look like it, I'll bless you. I'll bless you. For I know the plans that I have for you. Plans to prosper and not to harm you. To give you a hope and a future. No demon can stop it. No lie can stop it. No rumor can stop it. No slander can stop it. No devil can stop it. No enemy can stop it. No friend can stop it. No remorse can stop it. No sickness can stop it. No lie can stop it. No curse can stop it. Nothing. 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 Nobody. 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 Nobody can stop haven't seen the blessing yet. But can I tell you something today? There's a story in the Bible that says the battle is not yours. It belongs to the Lord. So can I encourage the people that ain't said amen yet? Ain't stood up yet. I dare you to praise God before the blessing. I dare you to praise God before the miracle. I dare you to praise God before the breakthrough. I dare you to praise God before the healing. How bad do you want it? How bad do you want it? Sacrifice your praise. Sacrifice your worship. Sacrifice a hallelujah. Sacrifice a hallelujah. Sacrifice. Sacrifice.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Thank you,
Got to
oh God.
get to a place that even when we can't see our way, we can see the way. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light. He's in your transition. He's in your valley. He's in your mountain. When you carry the wood, when you chop the wood, when you have to order the wood, when you have to leave the servants, when you have to leave your wife behind, when Isaac talking crazy, Jesus right there. That's why he said, God said, you believed in me. It wasn't the angel talking. It was a Christophany. It was Jesus coming before time. And if you believe God for this moment, he'll bless you before time. He'll heal you before time. He'll provide a time to heal you. He'll provide a time to bless you. He'll provide a time to tell you to the next level. I dare you shout. I dare you give him some glory. I dare you lift your hands and sacrifice unto God. I will bless the Lord at all. For all. And all. For all. I'm going. I'm going. I'm going.